right, thank you again for joining me for another Movie Lingo discussion. I'm Eddie Lingo, and on this episode, I want to talk to you about The Mule, starring Clint Eastwood, Bradley Cooper, Michael Pena, Lawrence Fishburne, and Andy Garcia. So yes, this review is, as usual, it is a spoiler-filled review. If you have not seen the movie, please go check it out and come back and then listen to my opinion on this film. Now, The Mule tells a story about a man who finds himself years into his life after dedicating himself to work, and because of his dedication to work, he's missed out on family opportunities, and then he has family that just won't even speak to him. He's just missed out on a lot because he was just so focused on work. And at the end, none of that paid off because he ended up not adjusting to the times, and it affected his business, and then he ended up on hard times in need of money. He ends up being propositioned by somebody that says, hey, we can just pay you to drive. We can just pay you to drive. And he doesn't ask too many questions. He gives it a shot because he needs some money. He wants to try and reconnect with the next generation, his granddaughter. He wants to make up for time that he lost with his actual daughter and his actual wife. He's trying to be there for his granddaughter, so he gives this a shot. And then it turns out, not only is it way more profitable than he expected, he actually started enjoying doing it. And so then he fully embodies being a drug mule for the Mexican cartel. Now, besides the fact that this was directed by Clint Eastwood, who is one of my favorite directors, and besides the fact that it had a star-studded cast, I thought that this movie was actually very, very good. And not for those reasons, because actually the roles that these characters played, realistically, anybody could have played those roles. There was nothing that was really jarring or groundbreaking about any of the performances. Okay, but this story itself, just the way it played out for me, I thought it was great. Now, some people will say there's some pacing issues. Some people will say it drags a bit. But for me, not at all. This movie, it focuses on the fact that he is getting more comfortable with these runs, being the mule for them. And you can see basically with everyone what he's doing with the money and how he's helping his community, how he's helping people, and then how he's making a name for himself because he's breaking records with how much weight they're actually moving on a weekly and monthly basis. So they're basically showing you and building up this whole step-by-step process on what got him on the DEA's radar, because that was a lot of his success. The fact that he was such an elderly man, nobody thought twice. Nobody thought twice about looking in his direction. All of this was placed well, was done well, it was executed well. And then on top of that, what makes me appreciate the story even more is that the trailer and everything makes you believe that Clint Eastwood gets caught up, and because of the DEA's investigation, they're going to need him to turn state's evidence or flip or give them something in order to make things all right. But they didn't even make that an offer. The DEA's goal was to make a big bust, and at the end of the movie, Clint Eastwood character had 310 kilos in the back of his truck, and they made that bust simple as that. And they watched him go to court. He had a chance to try and say that he was coerced or manipulated by the cartel, taking advantage of his old age, but he was a man. He just stood up and said he was guilty. And so for me, that made this movie that much better. I really thought going into this movie that it was going to be about him choosing to now give the DA what they need, lead them to bigger fish, and risk the life of himself and his family to make things right. And there was going to be some type of happy ending. But no, Clint Eastwood gets locked up. They got their bust. DA's happy. Clint Eastwood's like, you know what? I got to fix things with my daughter. I got to fix things with my ex-wife before she died, which was the best part of the movie for me. He got to fix the relationships in life that were important to him. And so now he's like, I've done what I needed to do. I'm going to take this and be a man about it. And I'm just going to go sit in prison because I am guilty. I knew what I was doing. And then it ends up being a happy ending because his daughter didn't turn on him again, which I was scared was going to happen. They were still there for him. His daughter, who hasn't talked to him in 12 years, says, I'm going to come see you. We know where to find you now. We know where you're going to be, and we're going to see every chance we get. And then not only while he's in prison does he now have the love of his family, but he's able to go back to doing what he loves, which was, gardening, landscaping. He was that was his whole business that he lost before, and now he's doing it in prison, and he was content. He was good. And even though that's not the best ending, this is based off a true story, so, you can't really be mad about that as far as creativity, but you can respect it, and I respect the hell out of it. And so this movie, the fact that it didn't try and give me any twists or anything crazy and try and, make it more than what it was a straightforward story that was beautifully executed. And the powerful moment when Clint Eastwood decides to risk his life to not complete the run so he could be there for family that he's never been there before. He's never been there before. He's chosen work over them when it didn't have any bearing on life or death. But this time when his life was on the line, he chose the family, and that won them back over. That was the biggest and greatest moment for me. And so that is the reason that I have to give this movie, being straightforward in that big moment, that great writing and the great acting and the great directing. I actually am giving this a 10 out of 10. That's right. The Mule, directed by Clint Eastwood with the all-star cast, and on this, just based on a true story, straightforward. I loved every bit of it. 10 out of 10. All right, I got nothing else for you on this. I can't praise this movie enough. I do want to know what you guys thought about it. I already know I'm going to get some flack because of this 10 out of 10 and pacing issues, and some people were bored, but not me. And I hope you can respect where I'm coming from with my opinion on this movie. I want to thank you for joining me for another Movie Lingo discussion. I'm Eddie Lingo, and we'll see you on the next one.
For what it's worth, I'm sorry for everything.